once I get through my stuff, I am going to open it up for your questions. And look who it is. We've is at the Shark Daymond getting connected here. And there he is. What's up, Daymond?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So I've mainly been working with Zach Rosenfeld, your guy,
Hmm.
pretty closely on this, but you and I have not gotten to speak face to face before. I'm Josh Ellis, editor-in-chief of Success Magazine, and I want to thank you so much for being a part of our new issue and everything that you've done, including joining me today.
Are you kidding me? You want to thank me? I want to thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I hope you've got your copy there are you at home? Or hope
I
you've
did not.
gotten.
I did not get it yet. Are you kidding me? I'm waiting with a empty frame to put that bad boy up because it is truly an honor. I have not gotten it yet.
Well, it's definitely on the way. We'll make sure we get plenty of copies. We send boxes for you.
Good, because
So
I'm gonna send most of them to the other sharks, to those underachievers, so that I can educate them on how to be better people.
exactly, that's awesome. This issue, I had an Instagram live earlier today, and I was telling our audience that this is the inspiration issue, and I believe that for everyone out there who's seeking something in business, personal growth, their life, there is a voice that they need to hear. And different people for different seasons in your life. I think that you have been a mentor for so many people in a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously, people know you from your time as a shark, as an investor, but it really goes back to when you were just a kid, getting FUBU up and running and showing like what the hustle of entrepreneurship is all about.
Yeah, and I think that the best way people learn is there's two ways people learn. You learn either from your mentors, you learn from your mistakes, as the old saying goes. And I love how you ask people about those mistakes, and we too often only see the successes, but my failures have fueled my successes. And I love the fact that I'm able to share those challenging times as well as you bring those times out of me so that people can apply it in their lives daily to make themselves better and more prepared.
What are some of the stories as you were, you talk about mistakes and challenges. What are some of those things that you overcame and made you stronger?
It is not knowing what I didn't know, so how do I go out and find what I need to know? And at that time, there was encyclopedias and various other things that were dated. There wasn't real time stuff happening. And yeah, did I understand that the Wall Street Journal was out there and various other things? But some of those things may have been a little bit too intimidating. So not knowing what I didn't know. Also, letting your ego get in the way. I've noticed that a lot of people will never get to financial freedom or success in their life, and it doesn't mean it has to be money, because they don't want to ask the simplest questions because they don't want to seem stupid. So and I know you publicly speak as well and lead people, but when I go to a high school or a junior high, those are the toughest questions that I've ever been asked because those kids don't have a filter. But I was talking to a dear friend of mine the other day, and he was like, "What does bootstrapping mean? What does a yield mean? What is how does the stock market work? How can you bet against the market, or what's going on with
Yeah.
GameStop?" And it's really because they were being very vulnerable, and they thought maybe I'd go, because in some rooms where people don't know you that well, or they don't even know half the information, they're like, "Oh, you don't know this?" Or some people are like, "Oh my God, wrong person is in the room." But when you're that vulnerable, what happens is you get to know these things and you get acquainted with some of these sayings or things, or how much in taxes should I pay? What do you mean my estimated taxes and we're asking for an extension? Like, what do you mean? Like, when you ask those simple questions, you start to get more and more knowledge, and then you build on top of that knowledge. But I found that when I was younger, especially when I made my first $20 million, I didn't ask anybody any questions because I felt like I would be embarrassed because I have $20 million and now I have all the answers when I was probably the dumbest person I could have been at that time of my life.
We did an exercise here with our magazine staff a few years ago. We were working on a story. I'm a millennial, but some of our older bosses wanted us to kind of pursue what millennials were looking for in personal development. And so we had like a round table of the younger people on the staff and things like that. And one of the things that um, uh, my good friend Garrett Hughes said, who at the time, he's probably like 23, 24-year-old black guy. And he said there are not a lot of faces in this personal development industry that look like me. And I have a hard time identifying with the message if someone hasn't really experienced it, what I've dealt with growing up. And so, you're talking about mentorship and things like that. I'm curious, as we get started in Black History Month, we're only 2 days in so far, but who are some of the African American entrepreneurs that you looked up to when you were growing up?
I think that there's a good point that he had, and unfortunately, if you look on television, I'm the only African American publicly known person in that sense that has nothing to do with music, sports, entertainment, and or politics. And there are millions of us that are like me, and you work with them often who are behind the scenes. I was able to, first of all, look up to a person who owned a corner store in my neighborhood who was an African American man, and I would go there, and there wasn't a word called internship in my community. It was sweep up the store for candy. And I swept up the store for candy, and he was a veteran. He fought for this great country of ours. He would talk to me about the fundamentals of running a business. And a lot of people believe that you need to go and find a Mark Cuban or a Barbara Corcoran or whoever else to be a great mentor. But a person who's running a business successfully, a corner store, a gas station, a car wash for 20 years in your community is still a person that dealt with various different challenges, competition, financing issues. And I was fortunate enough to learn from him. And then as I grew up, I also saw, I grew up in Hollis, Queens, so I saw LL Cool J and a lot of those other individuals. And there was a different aspect. See, from Tim, the guy who owned the corner store, I learned how to treat your customer, how to check your inventory, and various other things. What I learned from LL and Run DMC and all those, not that I knew them well, was I learned that at that time in my neighborhood, the real business people were unfortunately the drug dealers. And you would see them every day. The drug dealers would drive by school every day. So the real heroes we didn't get to see because the heroes were like most of the business people here. They were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting their kids ready for school, and then going to their place of business. You didn't see them. All you saw were the drug dealers driving by because they had no place to go. So a lot of my community fell short to the drug dealers. However, when I saw LL Cool J and Run DMC traveling the world and doing things that they loved, making money, not having to look over their back and inspire people, that was a different form of mentorship. And it showed me that you could do something you love, make money, you don't have to look over your back. And those are honestly the people that I saw of color. And then as I started to see that, well, then what happens? Your antennas go up and you start to think about more people you see in church. The parents that come up to the school to pick their kids up who aren't running around with gold chains on and stuff like that. But once you start heading down a certain path, you start to see other things in that path that maybe you want to attribute to be. And those were the people that I looked up to. But unfortunately, even on TV, there was one or two entrepreneurs on TV that looked like me, but it didn't look like Fred G. Sanford, the junk man, was doing that well at that time. So I couldn't look up to him. So I really looked up to the people in my community.
What has to happen, and I'm as a person in the media, I think I would be asking the question on behalf of the entire industry. How do we break through and overcome that challenge, and maybe identify some more voices?
Highlight the questions. Listen, we see a lot of the pit bulls and the LL Cool J's of the world out there, and I got to be honest. When LL and I started working, he started talking about these things called stocks in 1997, and nobody would talk to LL about stocks. They want to talk to him about taking his shirt off and licking his lips, and Mama said knock you out. But there are a lot of brilliant people. I mean, look at where Magic Johnson has come. But you have one Magic Johnson, but there's 100 other Magic Johnsons. So I think that the best thing to do is get people that are really notable at first, but go into the story that nobody else wants to talk about. Nobody finds interesting. And someone will say, well, why would I want to listen to LL Cool J about stocks? But you picked up the paper because it was LL Cool J. Now he's going to convert you over, and Success Magazine is going to convert you over to the business besides LL Cool J. Not something he wants to promote, his new album, his new book, television show. But go into those theories, and then what happens after that? Well, then maybe you highlight other people that they don't know that will break down stocks to you, break down ROI, break down other things, and elaborate. And so you get two type of people. You get the shiny thing that attracts people, but then you get the knowledge. And there's various different ways to do that. But I do want to say that, after this whole social injustice thing has obviously brought the attention to people, I've had a lot of CEOs and people call me and say, what do we do? And I have to share with everybody one thing. As the honest question you just asked me, you have to slowly walk down that road, because there's always going to be an issue in the world, right? Whether it's LGBTQ, whether it is, GameStop, and the market feels, the everyday person feels like they can't participate in what makes this country so great, because as soon as they start doing it, they get shut out. Or whether it's African Americans and obviously the marginalized communities with systematic racism. In any of these things, you have to slowly walk down the road and bring people in, especially internally, to say, what are your biggest passions here? Because if you try to go out there and really try to do it overnight, you may fall short, even though your heart is in the right place, and you may touch on some sensitive topics that you didn't grow into, or people may say you're just trying to put a stamp on it, and tomorrow you'll be onto something else. So anything, and I'm just not only talking to you, but anybody who wants to solve any or any of these challenges, they do it the same way entrepreneurs do something. They indicate that there's a challenge out there. They educate themselves on how to attack that challenge and why that challenge exists, and they take affordable steps towards trying to address it, and they act, they learn, and then they repeat a little more wisely.
Thank you for that. I'll tell you, we got pitched a story on Venus Williams just this morning, and I know Venus Williams as a tennis player, and so when I saw this pitch, and I'm like reading through all of the different businesses she has, I'm like, we have to tell people about this. Because frankly, TV Sports Center, where we see Venus Williams mostly, does not cover her businesses, and that's the role that Success can play, and others in the entrepreneurship, media, and personal development industry. We really need to amplify that, and so I'm proud to have you on the cover here. When I was talking to Zach, I was like, we want Daymond, and he's like, that's great. Daymond would love a presence in Black History Month, and I'm like, oh yeah, February is Black History Month. I was like, I want him anyway. But
I appreciate that.
I'm glad that especially with Black Entrepreneurs Day, which you had in 2020, and we're a big part of. I'm glad that it's a passion for you. I wanted to talk some more also in this cover story. You spoke to our writer Cece Meese, and you were talking about after the pandemic, hoping that your teams, you'll be able to kind of continue to have them not really tethered to an office. And you really embraced the remote work culture. What do you like about that?
I love the freedom that it gives you, and listen, I believe that as we get back, and as I'm hearing, honestly, normal is not going to be normal for quite some time, because whatever it may be, all these other forms. But today people want to know that they can work with somebody who understands them and understands all needs. And if people are working because they need to feed their family, they want to have a better quality of life, but they're able to be home and over provide for their job at the same time as being able to be with their family, that's great. But I do understand that there are also people who don't want to be home. They may not have a great situation at home, or can't get, work done, or maybe they live in a very small apartment, or you just came out of college and you moved to New York City and you want to be part of the big city. So I'm going to have to be able to balance two different ways of providing for my talent, because today, people want to work someplace where they feel like they are appreciated. They feel like they also add value. And I hate micromanaging somebody. I'd rather know that somebody is home, they're busting their ass for me, and I'm getting so much work out of them because they're happy. So I think that we're going to go into that world. And by the way, I don't want to go into the office every goddamn day. So, I'm saying to myself, why I should be able to be a reflection of my team. I shouldn't be as when you're a boss, you have to get up before everybody else and go to bed after everybody else. So if I lead by example and say, I want to be home, well, then you know what? My team should be able to have that option as well. And I really enjoy it, as well as, by the way, it saves me a shit ton of money. So, all those things are, in my thought process.
I promised everybody watching we'd get to some viewer questions, and I see one, not a question, but it's from Get Laced, and they say that happy employees are usually better employees. You've had a lot of people work for you over the years. Is that your experience, and why?
110%. Many of my employees have been with me 10 years or 20 years, and some of my employees with me, it was their first job. They were an intern, and then they stayed with me. They are the best because they feel like they're part of something. They feel like they're part of a movement. They feel like their voices are being heard. Generally, when employees leave me, it's because they either have a really, really strong passion to go someplace else, or that's really it. I have very little turnover, little to zero, or they're managed in a certain department by somebody who could be challenging to work with, and it is my obligation to get rid of that challenging person and not the heavy turnover people. But when they are happy, they stay at work longer. You know, sometimes I have to kick people out of the office and say, "What are you doing here so long?" And they're like, "I just love where I'm at. I'm learning at the same time as getting paid. I used to go to school and pay to learn. Now I'm getting paid and learning." So it is really great. And also, it makes me, especially during this time, I got to be honest, when we went into quarantine, and I've been through this various times, whether it was the 98 crash, whether it was 9/11, whether it was the Great Recession, most employers get as small as possible at that time. They cut all the fat. So they either cut the high paid employees or they cut a good amount of the staff, because you can always come back and hire people back. And I had to reflect on how many of my employees do I have. And honestly, because my employees are so happy and they work so hard, and I saw them step up so much in regards to this time, it reminded me why I work so goddamn hard. Because of these great people that work for me, that dedicate their time and their life and their energy and their dreams to my dreams. And so when an employee is happy and the boss is happy, you're unstoppable. You really are unstoppable. You're going to figure it out no matter what. And that's what I love about making my employees as happy as possible.
We had a question from Nina that is about dealing with negative people and reducing their influence on your life. Has that been something that you have paid particular attention to, since you became a success?
Oh, it's something I paid attention to way before I became a success. Yeah. Listen, the circle of friends around you can be mentors, or that circle can become a cage. And I've learned, and recently in the last 10 years, what I've learned to do is I've cut people out of my life who have been very dear to me. But what I realized was that they weren't a good friend to themselves. So they'll never be a good friend to me. And I tried to help them as much as possible, but it was draining, and taking in those negative influences or allowing them to steer me in a wrong way took time away from me allowing somebody else of value in my life, or giving somebody else of value my time. I realized, listen, I can't come home to my wife and my 4-year-old, who are my loving family, and somebody has rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm allowing them to interrupt the time with the people that I love, because they're bad people. They screwed me over, or we don't get along, or they're just drama queens or drama kings, whatever the case is. And now I'm allowing them to eat away at my life and my core. So listen, I thank God I'm turning 52 in another 3 weeks, and some of my friends and some of my people around me, even family, I've said to them, I've been arguing with you for 40 years. I'm not going into the next half of my life arguing with you again. Let's agree to disagree. We're done.
All right. I'll leave you with this one. It's a little bit of a departure. This one was from Muvez, M-U-V-E-Z. Thanks for the question. It's always a great one for successful entrepreneurs. What is your morning routine?
So that's Moves. Is that the ones who are on Shark Tank? Is it Sneaker?
M-U-V-E-Z. I might not have seen that episode.
Might be. I'm dyslexic, so I don't get everything right. But I'll tell you my morning routine. A lot of people do already know it, but I my morning routine starts off at 12 or 1 o'clock at night, right before I'm going to bed, I read these 10 goals that I read every night before I go to bed, and every morning I wake up, and 6 of the goals expire in 6 months. The other 4 expire in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. They range from personal wealth to faith, to time with my family and my health. And I read them before I go to bed because I want them to be the last things that I think about when I go to sleep. And I read them when I wake up because I want to take one action towards one of those goals, whether it's a call, whether it's drinking a green drink instead of that beautiful bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich that I want in the morning, 10 push-ups, whatever the case is. And I didn't come up with this myself. I came up with this after reading the most amazing book besides the Bible, which is called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I read that book at 16 years old. I've read it 20 times ever since then. I still learn new things from it. It is attributed to making more millionaires in the world, obviously, besides the books of religion and faith. So those are that's what I do every single morning, and it keeps me on point. It's my North Star. It's my navigation, because I'll notice that I'm human. Sometimes I won't read those goals for a week. Sometimes, honestly, for a week and a half, I'm human. And I'll get back and I'm like, why am I so sluggish? Why am I not excited about today? Why am I not excited about this? And I go back to those damn goals and I go, and that's why I'm excited. And then sometimes I even read them when I'm working out. Because when you got adrenaline running through your body and you're listening to the Rocky theme and you're reading those goals, oh my God, bring Mr. T on. I'm going to break his face. So those are things I do.
Awesome. Well, I have one more on top of Think and Grow Rich that everybody should add to their reading list. It's the new issue of Success Magazine. Daymond John on the cover. You can find it at store.success.com, your local newsstand. Check it out. And Daymond is on the Success Stories with Kendra Hall podcast. That episode came out today. Daymond, thanks so much for the time and being a part of Success.
It is an honor. Thank you for you've been supporting Shark Tank since day one. You've been bringing the story into people's living rooms and into their heads and educating people. So thank you so much for showing everybody how success and what success really is. And I do definitely appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All of you out there, have a great day. Go get it. And maybe you'll end up on the cover one day too, just like Daymond. So long.
Thank you.